Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Lesson Known Classics. This is episode number 31, 24, and Doubleshot 3018. I have two DC trades, both featuring, one character who is basically highlighted in both books. First we have is Poison Ivy Volume 3, Mourning Sickness. Written by G. Will Wilson, it collects issues 13 to 18 of the Poison Ivy ongoing. And keeping the series is still going strong after 3 years. Yeah, a lot of people are so shocked at the fact this book is still being published. It's been a while since I purchased basically a trade. I tried to work for a comic store, but they've had issues with getting books in lately, so I've had to take a break. Last time I was there was like about 2 weeks ago. I may try to go back next week. Maybe. So, in the case of this particular one here. By the way, artwork here is done by these artists. One of whom was actually one of the artists for the previous fight for Catwoman. We have Marco Takara, Gilliam March, who was one of the primary artists of the previous volume, legendary Batman artist Kelly Jones, A.L. Kaplan, and Luna Benedito. The cover here is done by Jessica Fong. So, we open up with Ivy in bed with Harley. Or they just, finished spending the night together. And then she looked like she's going to place in the city. Love the artwork. And then she runs into Catwoman. And her current design, I believe, was from one of the books here. And then we switch to Kelly Jones's artwork. Yeah. With, because look at this. That's the first artist. Here's basically Kelly Jones. Yeah, and she's like hanging out in Robinson Park, her favorite place to go. And then we see, and you can tell it's Kelly Jones because the bat ears. Yeah, it's the freaking bat ears. Yep. So, talk about enemies, whatever. They have a really good conversation. Then we go back, and then she goes to Slaughter's Swamp, the home of Solomon Grundy. And yes, Solomon Grundy does appear here. So, then she goes visit the house, goes inside, and runs into Killer Croc, who apparently, and of course she didn't see the fact that it actually is him, and they fight, and then we're getting a look at him like, is it me, or did Croc put on some weight? Yeah, he looks like he put on some weight. So basically hide from the city, of course, and then we go to downtown Gotham City, where she just does some construction work here, and we see these flowers, which is, yeah, and also later on in the book, it's shown that apparently she suffered from morning sickness, and her belly gets bigger, and that leads into the end of the book, which, something. And then we cut to Harley Quinn's strange closet, which is basically, I guess, Undane Holdings. And of course, Harley is here, obviously. It's probably like Harley's got her own solo house. She's able to hang out this book, no problem. And then Batman once again shows up here because Batman frequently shows up in this book. And fights a blonde woman who ends up kissing Harley. But I think of somebody, yeah. Harley kisses her and doesn't come into her. And of course, Ivy knows nothing about this at all. And then we meet up with this plant man, Peter Undine. Which, yeah, became because of his greed. Ivy fights him, and then we have Killer Croc, and a much better looking artwork here. What it looks like between issues, he actually lost weight. So he's hanging out in Slaughter's Swamp for a while, and they have some muck going on here. Yeah. Everybody's getting infected with whatever Ivy's got, because she's got a new ability now where she can make biotoxins for her own body. And another night, Harley spends the night with Ivy. And it was a wonderful image in the issue with the bat signal shining in the sky. So cool. And then she wakes up this morning like, oh, something's wrong with her belly. Her belly looks different. Yeah, this is where the morning sickness comes in. And then Killer Croc, and really good artwork here where it looks like he's got muscular. It's like, what is up with Croc's body proportion? So then they go deeper into Slaughter's Swamp. And then they run into somebody that you would think that Why is he here? Solomon Grundy. Yep. Who writers DC Comics speak at the fact that he was originally Alan Scott villain, and for some reason writers think he's a Batman villain, despite the fact he's an enemy of Alan Scott. So then we have Solomon Grundy versus Killer Croc, which these guys fought once before in, I believe, Solomon Grundy's solo title that came out prior to Flashpoint. And then we have stuff with the Swamp here. You don't think of the Swamp, you think Swamp Thing will help up this book? No. And Swamp Thing, his whole thing is that he quotes the poem. And then Batman shows up this gorgeous artwork. It's so good here. And you help, of course, that's what now basically her belly's acting up here. Yeah. So eventually her body explodes, and then Jason Woodger returns. Yep. Excellent book. Maybe kind of gross, but excellent book. I give this book a 9 out of 10. Next up, basically, we have is a Very DC Valentine special, Valentine's Day. This collects Young Monsters in Love, Young Romance, and New 52 Valentine's Special, and the Harley Quinn Valentine's Day Special. Yeah, that's the one thing both books in common. They all feature Harley Quinn. The writers of these stories are, get this, Cecile Castelli, Amanda Connor, Andy Deagle, Paul Dini, Ray Fox, Phil Hester, Kyle Higgins, Colin Kelly, Alyssa Connie, Jackson Lazing, Peter Mulligan, and the DC Valentine, Jim Palmiotti, James Robinson, Mark Russell, Margaret Scott, and Tim Seeley. Of these writers, the ones I met, Amanda Connor, Jim Palmiotti, I think it was Colin Kelly I met Kyle Higgins. And that's it. Artists, Sam Bosley, Ben Caldwell, Aaron Campbell, Gustavo Camuncoli, Marco Kodak, Andrew Curry, Javier Fernandez, Julio Ferreira, Julius Lopez, Stanford Green, Stephen Hans, I met Brian Hitch, Fraser Irving, Kelly Jones, another book featuring him, Nick Clean, and Mila Lagabakio, Gillian March, another book featuring him, John McCara, Jay Mediza, Ika Madura, Robinson Ruka, Tana Sellis, Ken Smith, and John Timms. This cover art is done by Kelly Jones and Michelle Madison. So now we have, Young Monsters in Love, where the opening story is a Man-Bat story. It's a Kyle Higgins read this thing. It's basically about Man-Bat's relationship with his wife. Yeah, and of course, apparently the Man-Bat personality is like a thing in his head. And then we see Frankenstein meet up with his ex-wife. And of course, stuff here with Shade. And then the book ends with a little story that we have with, Claudia, I missed you. Yep. Basically, the writer of the story turned Bride Frankenstein into a lesbian. And then focused on Solomon Grundy next, which features Superman in his new 52 costume. Yep. A costume that a lot of people don't like very much, and it's a very interesting story. And then we have a Raven story. You have a Colin Kelly Jackson. Yeah, or just basically Raven doing a haunted house thing. There's no romance here per se. Well, there's a little bit of romance, but nothing noteworthy. And then we have Dead Man, where he is helping out a kid with romance. And then move on to frickin' Swamp Thing, where it's about Abby Arcane. Not really, just a fun side story. And then we have Monsieur Mala and the Brain. This is Steve Larry, this thing where, get this is about the love between Monsieur Mala and the Brain, where we have a guest appearance story by Maggie Sawyer in a rare non-Batman or Superman appearance by her, meeting up with these two guys who she never met in pre-Flashpoint. Never did. Of a hostage, and of course they recount the history. Of course they turn his eyes on and they surrender. And then we got the Prague, where it's a vampire story. Yes. Yep, it's about his romance with Mary. New Girl. And then we have a Demon Story by Phil Holster. Yep. Now, a couple of these stories I'm going to skip over because I discussed these already. So, and then we have a Creature Commando story. This is James Robinson one, where it's basically a romance. Let's see. It's just a fun little Creature Commando story. And then we have, well, this is where we have the young heroes romance. Then we have a Catwoman one, which I think this was collected in the Catwoman trade. One of the anything they wrote it. And then we have an Aquaman one, which this one I don't think was collecting the Aquaman trade. I don't think so. Just romance between Arthur and Mira. This Batgirl one, I know definitely this one was. This is collecting definitely one of the trades. This one, I think it was collecting the third trade. Not a second. And then we have Apollo Midnighter. This was collected, I believe, in the Stormwatch book. Yep. One of the Stormwatch books. And then we have a Nightwing one, which this one I believe was collected in the main Nightwing series. I think maybe like toward the end. And then we have a Superman Wonder Woman, which, yeah, this was probably collected in Superman Wonder Woman, obviously. And then we have the Harley Quinn Valentine Special that was collected in the main Harley Quinn trades. This book was a lot of fun. I give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up, we have one more comic corner, and then we'll rest my voice for a bit. Okay, thanks, Phil. Bye.